Well, I was in the conference two other times, and the road was very difficult. So, I haven't been to Creighton yet. Not looking forward to it, uh, but it'll be new to me. I think this conference, at one time, I think we had 9 or 10 teams in the NCAA. I think this conference is as strong this year as any other time in the history of the Big East, which is saying something.
Rick, how bizarre is it that you're back here for a third time? It's not the Grand Hyatt, but it's a bigger room than maybe you recall the last time you were at a Big East Media Day.
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to this year as much as any time in my coaching history because it's back home. I still remember my New York Knicks press conference when I pulled up to the place. The Garden has changed immensely, about $2 billion added to it, but still the same freight elevator to get to the locker room. So there are a lot of changes, but it's still the great history of the place, and I'm so excited to be back part of it. The league is, now, I haven't been in it to play some of the teams, but last year you almost had 3 teams in the Final Four. You have a lot of teams with a host of players back, and I think that Georgetown, St. John's, Seton Hall, all rebuilding their brand will make some noise this year.
Thank you, Coach.
How are you? Well, I just think that St. John's has, for me, a history growing up in the late 50s and early 60s that I remember vividly, going back to Sonny Dove and Joe Dupree, and those are the first recollections of St. John's. And then as coach with the Knicks, Dick McGuire, being around him all the time, we spoke so much about Lapchick, we spoke so much about the early days of St. John's. So it's a stride through memory lane, so to speak, and St. John's has fallen on hard times, mainly because of the competition so great, and they had a difficult time recruiting locally as well as nationally, and I found that to be relatively easy, the recruiting part. I think it would mean, for a New Yorker growing up, it's no different than what the Knicks would mean. St. John's is special. And for me, ending my career, building St. John's up to a national power would just be an incredible experience for everybody that I call a friend or family member. I would say, believe it or not, North Carolina. A lot of New Yorkers went to North Carolina. So that's what we identified with growing up. It was obviously a pro town, so it was always the Knicks. The Knicks colleges weren't followed, with the exception of St. John's in North Carolina. Well, I coached back when it was Alumni Hall, and now it's much more distinguished, being a Conoseca. A one-point thriller, and I never forget that moment because of the circumstances behind that game, of having 1 second left on the clock, and Louis didn't want to shake my hand because he was demanding that there was 1 second left on the clock. So I remember it so well, and now it was a very exciting double overtime exhibition game, which you don't expect in an exhibition game.
Rick, you talked a lot about changing the culture of St. John's this offseason. Is it easier to do so with 3 of your guys from Iona coming in and only 2 guys staying from the previous regime?
I don't think it's easier. I think that I had 3 prerequisites that I wanted in this recruiting class. I wanted great athletes who were great people, and then I wanted to make sure that they had high goals of themselves, that they could take their goals and turn it into something special. In order to do that, we keep talking about if you want to prosper, the name on the back, play for the name on the front. And that's how you build a culture. When you play every single day in practice for the name on the front, we just keep saying the back will prosper. And that's what we've been pushing with everybody in this team. We've taken a lot of good offensive players from other schools, like Penn, like Harvard, UMass, VMI, and trying to turn them into defensive players. Those guys consider defense part of COVID.
Rick, have you ever coached a Harvard man before? If Chris Lidlum on your team, you're switching.
A Harvard man? Have I coached a Harvard man? Probably not. I don't think so.
What's Lidlum's role going to be at you?
Ledlam's a starting four-man. He's an undersized four-man, but he can play three, he can play four. He's 235 pounds, carries his weight very well. Terrific young man from Brooklyn, Staten Island. Really, he's a joy to coach.
Is he a grad student? Did he graduate from Harvard?
Yes, he did. He graduated from Harvard. Now he's going to a real academic institution.
I agree.
Rick, St. John's and Georgetown, when you first, got to be part of the Big East, that was a big thing. Coaching change here, coaching change at Georgetown, two guys who have done a lot of things. Where do you see Georgetown versus St. John's going in the coming years?
I think we're both going to rise to the level of excellence together. Ed's a dear friend, and I've known him for a long time. We're ex-Providence College coaches. There's no doubt in my mind he's a worker. He's a terrific coach. He's a great recruiter. So I think both of us will rise to the level of excellence, and that's what we're both trying to do together, as well as I think Shaheen will do the same thing at Seton Hall. I'll tell you the truth, I don't have any thoughts on it. I just saw it come across. Don't know a whole lot about Sacred Heart or Merrimack for that matter. I know it's in Boston, but don't know a whole lot about their programs.
Coach, I know you've been a lot of places. What's the biggest thing you can take from Iona into this job?
Well, I didn't have to move, so that was a wonderful thing. Iona, to me, is one of the hidden gems in America because going back to Jim Valvano, every single coach that has coached there has won and won big. So to me, it's a hidden jewel in Westchester. It's a terrific school academically. I would not be sitting here today at St. John's in the Big East if it wasn't for Iona. Well, I'm good friends with Kamani, their assistant coach, and I watched them play a lot. And I sat there getting ready for Selection Sunday, and I thought we were going to get a 3 seed, go against a 3 seed. And I said, when it came out, I said, holy shit, we're going to get UConn. And I did not want that. We were the only team up at halftime, but after playing them in person and watching their second unit come in, I thought they had national champion written all over. And I told Danny that walking off. I said, you can win the national championship. Good luck to you. Naheem is what worries me about my team, awesome young men, is the fact that all of them haven't won big with the exception of Naheem. UMass lost, Harvard lost, Penn lost, VMI lost, and most of them lost because they were very well coached, but they didn't play great defense. So now we have to change them into the mindset of winning and playing great defense. So even my St. John's players haven't won. So Naheem and Iona players have won, and they understand defensively what it takes to win. The other guys don't right now. You know, the great thing about I knew Danny when he was at St. Benedict's, and he was a great high school coach. It does not surprise me to see him have that great success. But this is a league that's always been, I don't know the coach of Creighton, have never gone against him, but everybody says he's flat out a great coach. I know Sean Miller since he was a player. Sean Miller is one of the premier coaches in all of basketball. Has always been. He's a great mind. He was a great player. And I know him since he's 13 or 14 years of age. I know Thad Matta for a long, long time. I know Shaheen as a great high school basketball player. I coached against him at St. Peter's. We all know what he did there. So this is a league of, I don't mean to leave anybody out. This is a league of fabulous coaches. And that's why they almost had 3 teams in the Final Four last year.
Rick, you've been really critical about your new team, Rutgers.
I've been critical of them?
You've been expecting.
Let's say honest.
Yes, sir. You've been honest about the team. Rutgers was basically a March game with how it ended. What did you learn about their team? First impression of real action against them?
In watching the tape, I thought it was a great game to go against a Rutgers coach team. Steve does a fabulous job. You couldn't ask for a better exhibition game. We learned a lot about our team, but I thought the effort was a 10 out of 10 by both teams. I think the execution was a 5. So many things that have to get better, and I'm sure Steve feels the same way. But effort-wise for both teams was fabulous.
What are you hoping that you see out of the team against Mace this weekend?
I just think my guys are giving me great effort every single day. It's just they don't understand how to play defense. They think they do. They think they're working hard, but they don't understand what real hard work is. And that's building a culture. The Iona kids do. They understand it. But we grade them every day on LM, MN, HM. Low motor, mid motor, high motor. They get a grade along with a written thing of what they did in practice each day. In the beginning, it was mostly low motors to mid motors, and now it's mostly mid motors to high motors. So we're making progress.
How long does it take to get to that level of sort of where they're consistently at that place you want to be?
6 years, the length of my contract. No, I'm hoping by the first game. It's difficult, but I'm hoping.